Can Google's Gemini dethrone ChatGPT-4 when it comes to marketing? Well, it's quite possible. I've experimented a lot with Google's AI over the past few months, and this is the first time I felt it was worth your while to create a video about it. And I'm excited to show you how Google's Gemini performs in a head-to-head competition with ChatGPT-4. This video is for marketing professionals who are looking for innovative ways to improve their content creation, customer engagement, lead generation, and campaign strategies. It's also for content creators who are looking for the edge when it comes to writing and blogging and creating videos. It's also for business decision makers who are really interested in finding the most efficient tools for their teams. I have been very skeptical of Google's AI as they've dropped the ball so many times. I've also become very comfortable with using ChatGPT, so it was hard to convince myself to make this video, but I'm really glad that I did. Frankly, I'm going to be using Gemini a lot moving forward. Today we're going to look at which of these tools can create the best marketing campaign ideas, the best marketing copy. We're going to get a feel for the ROI that's possible with each of these tools. We're going to start with a nitty-gritty comparison of how Gemini and ChatGPT respond to various prompts, and then at the very end of the video I'm going to summarize all my thoughts with some very succinct pros and cons that'll hopefully help you make this decision on your own. Alright, if you're new to the Blazing Zebra channel, I want to welcome you and thank you for joining me on my mission of helping marketers and entrepreneurs around the world to understand and use AI in all of their business practices to increase their profitability and enjoy their day-to-day more. If you're enjoying these videos, please check out my Patreon. I've got a ton of cheat sheets, coaching options, and fun stuff there. But let's dive into the task at hand, which is comparing ChatGPT-4 to Gemini. Here are the, 7 steps we're going to put this through. We're going to look at how each one of them generates campaign ideas for your marketing campaigns. We're going to generate ICPs, ideal customer profiles, and see which one performs better there. We're going to look at demographics, keywords, ad copy, landing page copy, and even video scripts for videos that you might want to use on Instagram Reels, on TikTok, on YouTube Shorts. So these are the tests we're going to run this comparison on. Let's get going. The first prompt we are going to use to kick everything off here is this one: come up with 4 PPC campaign ideas based on the copy supplied. So I'm going to drop that here into GPT-4. And then I like to just grab the homepage copy. This is a cybersecurity company called Arctic Wolf. So I want to test these out on some pretty complex B2B marketing campaigns, figuring if they can do that, then they can probably do a lot of other good things here. So for this prompt, I'm just going to do a Control A, grab everything, Control C, and drop that here into ChatGPT-4. Very dirty, no need to clean that stuff up. Let's get it going here. Okay, so you can see here in ChatGPT-4 that based on the copy provided, here are 4 PPC campaign ideas that leverage key themes, etc., offered by Arctic Wolf. So pretty solid stuff here with ChatGPT-4, and I've been using this quite a bit in the past many months. It's generated the headlines, descriptions, keywords, landing page ideas here, and I think they're all pretty good. They all seem to align with different aspects of Arctic Wolf's offerings from that copy that we pasted in. Let's take a look at Gemini. This is the exact same prompt, exact same copy that I uploaded, and here we have a slightly different response. Absolutely, here are 4 PPC campaign ideas inspired by the copy you provided, along with potential keywords and messaging. So here the campaign ideas are a little more concise. They start with just the keywords in the ad copy example, where the ChatGPT-4 was a little more robust, but you'll notice at the end of this, it starts to give the additional considerations. So this is something that I found Gemini kind of excelling at, the little notes and ideas that were not necessarily requested in the prompt, but I found very helpful. Sometimes when ChatGPT supplies these extra notes and thoughts, I don't really get much out of them. They're just sort of extra noise, but the Gemini thoughts seemed pretty helpful, frankly. So I think I would put these at sort of a tie, these different responses here for the campaign ideas. With this Gemini, it's just giving you some general ideas, which was kind of what I was looking for. I didn't want it to really flesh out quite as much as ChatGPT-4 did. It's a close one. This is pretty much a tie, but again, I feel like Gemini, just with some of these ideas here, negative keywords like ChatGPT has never mentioned that type of thing, and that's really, really important when it comes to putting together these ad campaigns. Let's move on to this next prompt. Create ideas for the ideal customer ad targeting for these ad campaigns based on the ad ideas and keywords above. So this is just added on to the same chat string, building upon the analysis that we've done already, those campaign ideas, asking it for this ICP and targeting. ChatGPT gives a good outline of the target audience, job functions, interests, strategies, and breaks that down for each one of these. Again, very solid, no arguments here. This would have taken a ton of work to do manually. Let's see how Gemini responded to this same prompt. So here's Gemini's response: targeting parameters, build out precise targeting, consider these factors. It starts with certain industries being the more prime targets. Again, there's just a little bit more of that in-depth knowledge, a little more strategy baked into the Gemini responses. It's answering the questions that you didn't really think to ask. It's going a little bit outside of that prompt and giving you actually useful stuff, not some of the stuff that ChatGPT gives, which is just, fluff that's not necessarily that helpful. It gives you some of the key decision makers, job titles, very similar. And then it starts getting into the campaign breakdowns, similar to the ChatGPT response. Interesting. It starts with looking at organizations that are actively in breach of an incident. So it's really thinking through who's going to need this cybersecurity the most, since people that have just had a cybersecurity attack. Pretty brilliant. And then it goes out to just, companies that are concerned about risk, companies that are lacking internal capabilities. And then it highlights this Gartner report that was mentioned in the copy. Gives additional ideas. Again, this is stuff that ChatGPT is not doing, where it's giving you these location targeting based on local and regional, custom audiences, if you have CRM data, or audience based on past interests, lookalike audiences. It's really getting into the nitty-gritty of putting this campaign together. These are things that may not be top of mind, but you might think about later. It's bringing all that right top of mind when you need it. So again, I'm going to say it's close, but that Gemini actually is providing a better result here. And this is what, if you've watched any other videos like this or looked at any other head-to-head comparisons, that's what they're all saying is Gemini, the advanced version, is just slightly ahead. But frankly, it's enough ahead that, it's really worth thinking about using, because just adding some of these little additional ideas can save you a ton of time and can really enhance whatever you're working on. I'm excited about it, actually. Okay, next prompt: create audience demographics, behaviors, and interests based on these ad targets. Let's take a look at ChatGPT-4. It's pulling together basically what you'd expect: solid demographics, solid behaviors, interests. Sometimes it does ages. I'm not seeing the ages. That might be coming up later of the actual. Yeah, here we go. It mentions ages, which can be helpful when you're doing your targeting. It's pulling in some great jargon, some terminology that I think would probably resonate with these type of IT directors. So this is fairly advanced stuff here. And I think, as you might expect, ChatGPT-4 does a pretty good job of this. Let's see what Gemini has pulled together. See, it's adding these important notes. The granularity here will depend on the capabilities of your chosen advertising platform. Some allow for detailed segmentation, while others may be more limited. As marketers, if you've done any PPC, you know that, but just having those little notes kind of as you're looking at this information can be quite helpful. Overall demographics, so it's starting with, kind of going wide. ChatGPT did not add that. You may think that's a bonus, or it may be something that is not good here, but it's starting out with these general online behaviors, general searches, interests. These are pretty interesting for giving a global overview, and then it's diving into the campaign specific refinements. Campaign 1, immediate threat resolution. Emphasize urgency within this audience. Additional notes: B2B specificity. Platforms don't offer granular. Okay, it's kind of repeating itself there. It's mentioning LinkedIn. So This one, I don't know, kind of a tie. I guess I might hedge a little bit towards ChatGPT here, as it has really fleshed out what could become some good campaigns, but at the same time, Gemini is giving you some background information that could be really helpful. Next prompt, create 10 targeted keywords for each campaign idea. So here's ChatGPT's response of 10 different keywords for each campaign. These are enough to get you started. Again, I've mentioned this in other videos, but if you have access to tools like SEMrush, or my favorite is Ahrefs, they can really help you refine that. But this is a good place to get started and might uncover a few different synonyms that aren't top of mind as you go to those tools, because sometimes and it's hard to break out of those one or two keywords. This can help you with that. So as you might expect, solid results from ChatGPT-4. But this is what I'm talking about with ChatGPT-4. It adds these little summaries, conclusions, introduction paragraphs that frankly I don't get any benefit out of. I know you can use custom instructions and things like that to help with it, but I think this is where Gemini, when it adds these extra ideas, it's actually giving you good content and other strategy ideas rather than these just generic summaries that, yeah, maybe they're helpful in a blog post format or something like that, but those are the exception, not the rule of what I'm looking for in these different large language models. Let's see what Gemini has here. Being that this is a Google product, I would hope that their keywords would be pretty on point, and they look pretty good. Yeah, I would say these are better. There's a lot more different variety here that may help as you bring these into other tools to sort of fine tune your campaign ideas. These are solid, where the ChatGPT versions were kind of variations on the same keyword. And again, here are these important notes. Instead of just a summary saying, here are some keywords, blah, blah, blah. It's telling you long tail, match types. These are all critical things to be thinking about when you're building out these campaigns. All right, prompt 5, create 10 Google ads for each campaign idea, each with a 30-character title and a 90-character description. ChatGPT's response. Title, Secure Your Cyber World, In Cyber Risk Now. I would say those are okay. If I had to do this over, I might ask it to just focus on one campaign at a time. I feel like we're really stretching the context window, but that's kind of the point of a head-to-head comparison like this. I like this MDR, that's interesting. I don't think Gemini has picked up on that terminology. And there you have it. So there's the Cyber Security Awareness and Training campaign and the MDR campaign. Again, pretty solid. These are your search campaign keywords, the very top of Google. When you're doing search, you don't have a whole lot of room there for your character counts. So I think it's done well. You can see it's pretty formulaic. A lot of these are fairly similar. Let's see if Gemini can improve on that. Oh, so here we go. This is kind of a big error. And this happened a couple times with Gemini. This is definitely a point in the cons direction for Gemini, where they are so focused on the election. In the United States, we're going into a presidential election year, and AI is at the center of this because everyone's worried that, it can cause a lot of problems. And I got this response a couple times where all I said is generate 10 Google ads for each campaign idea with character counts. And it responds with, elections are a complex topic. So for some reason, it thinks this is election related. I had it did this a couple times. So this is an error going on with Gemini where it wasn't able to really create these ads. I think if I rephrased this a little bit and reran it, you could get something there, but I'm going to move on to Facebook ads. Here's the Facebook ads prompt. Recreate these ads for Facebook, each with a 40-character headline, primary text section with 125 characters, and a 30-character description. So this is for your basic Facebook ad campaign. There's various formats for both of these platforms, but these prompts provide a pretty good starting place. So here's some of the ad copy that Gemini was able to create for these Facebook ads. Breached, get help now, primary text, immediate response, fast ransomware recovery, contact us immediately. These are solid. I think these are very different and very engaging when you compare them to the ChatGPT-4, which again, I'm a fan of ChatGPT-4. I've made over 50 videos about it, and I think I have a feel for how it responds to things like this pretty well. And I can say that these offer more of a variety, which is what you're really looking for when you're testing ad copy against each other, is you're not writing just similar versions of the same ad over and over, but actually different versions, different angles. I'm seeing that here, which I don't see in a ChatGPT all the time. So I think there's a little bit more of that strategic decision making going on under the hood of Gemini. Now we're on to landing pages. So with this prompt, we're going to ask it to generate a sales landing page that these PPC ads will drive traffic to, given the targeting information and PPC draft ideas. And you can see ChatGPT starts with this very general, creating effective landing pages, blah, blah, blah. It's like nobody needs that. Anybody asking this prompt does not really need this information. It's sort of structured as if you were writing a blog post about how to write a landing page. But here we're asking it just, hey, create the landing page. And it does a good job of that, but you always have to skip kind of the beginning and the end of every ChatGPT response. That's one of the big differences I'm seeing between these two large language models. And here is the copy for the landing page, which I'm always impressed with. This stuff, this type of sales copy can take a lot of time. And, this is where these AIs can really shine. So there is that entire landing page there. Now let's look at what Gemini has created. So Gemini looks like it's taken a little bit of a different approach. Here's a framework for a compelling sales landing page tailored to the targeting insights and PPC ideas you've provided. Focus on matching the urgency and problem-solving tone from the ad campaign. So it's giving you some ideas in that first paragraph. Again, it's not super thick with information, but I think there's a little more to that than the ChatGPT response. Page structure, headline, subhead, hero image, problem solution. So it's giving you some ideas of the actual imagery. I don't know if ChatGPT did that. I'm not seeing that actually in ChatGPT, where it's not giving you that visual treatment that can be very helpful if you just want to pass this stuff off to a designer. They've got some ideas of professional, non-alarmist visual abstract design, representing security or restoration. Here are some of the other things here: social proof, testimonials, call to action. And so that's the framework. And now it's saying, okay, here is the actual example. So I think that's pretty cool that it's giving you the framework and an example. Oftentimes ChatGPT will just give you one or the other. And this is giving you both, including an example of social proof, which is super valuable, because if you've ever tried to get testimonials from anyone, they will often say, if they're your best clients or whoever, they'll just say, hey, just write something up so that I can, and I'll just sign off on it. And Gemini's doing that right here, basically giving you some really good ideas for testimonials, because oftentimes that has to be a whole separate process coming up with those. If this was your client, you could just say, hey, let's find somebody who this might fit, and then see if they'll sign off on that testimonial. I don't know if that's shocking to most people, but that's often what happens when these testimonials are created. All right, so some trust indicators here. That was not mentioned in ChatGPT, but could be very huge. That can really increase the conversion rate there. The ideas of putting those different certifications in, other important considerations. So really going above and beyond, saying, hey, make sure it works on mobile. The pop-ups, it's telling you to put a pop-up on there. Not a bad idea. These additional notes, again, are helpful, So again, the strategy that Gemini is bringing to the table is pretty awesome. All right, and now prompt 8, creating a video script for ads that might point to these landing pages, or ads that might work with this different landing page copy. Let's see what kind of script these tools have come up with. Here we are, again, starting off with ChatGPT-4, video script for TikTok and YouTube Shorts, secure your future with Arctic Wolf, opening scene. This one does give you the visual treatments. That is great. Narrator, in a world where cyber threats evolve every second. A little cliche there. That may be intentional. I don't know. But, a lot of videos, a lot of trailers, movie trailers start with, in a world where such and such. So maybe if they wanted to lean into that, that would be good. But otherwise, it seems like that would be something I would want to touch up and actually improve the originality of that. Moves on to a second scene. There's a team ready to protect your digital universe. This is frankly not one of the better scripts that I've seen ChatGPT-4 come up with. I've seen much better. This seems very generic here, something that any sort of a copywriter could come up with pretty quickly and would want to improve upon pretty quickly. So it is good, I guess, for a bad first draft to get the creativity going, but this would be, I would say, pretty unusable for most clients that I've worked with. And again, this completely useless final paragraph, which is funny because, as I've said, I've been a huge fan of ChatGPT-4, but actually working with what looks to be like a better large language model in Gemini, you really start to see some of the weaknesses and how this can just continuously get better and better. Let's see what Gemini did with this video script. So it starts with important considerations. Again, telling you, hey, you're going to need to change this if you're going to put it on TikTok versus YouTube Shorts. There's some differences there. That might be something you could work with Gemini with, tweaking it for those, tweaking the script, tweaking the visual treatments, time limits. It's giving you some ideas on that where ChatGPT-4 did not do that. Visuals, it's saying stock footage can work alongside graphics, avoid anything visually alarming. And the visual treatments here is pretty intense. This is much more in depth than the ChatGPT version where screen flickers, distorted code briefly, cuts to Arctic Wolf logo, resolving cleanly. Business under attack, hackers got into your system. Starting with those questions, much more impactful than in a world where cybersecurity, blah, 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 whatever the ChatGPT version is. This really shines way better. I would give this, I don't know, this is just ready to go. The other one would need a lot of work. And again, this is after all these different back and forth. This is one chat string. So you can imagine if you wanted to just, focus all of that entire context window up to this point on just the video, pretty powerful. So I would say a clear win from Gemini here, giving you some ideas for tweaks. Then at the bottom here, it says, let me know if you'd like a draft tailored to other PPC campaign ideas. So, it's saying, hey, this is just for one of those PPC campaign ideas. And it's already giving you that next step of, hey, let's create one of these for each of the different PPC campaigns. Pretty solid. Okay, so getting into my summary here. Gemini, cons, things we didn't talk about is it doesn't seem to work with G Suite accounts. So I have many Google accounts that are tied to different businesses that I run, and I can't use those with Gemini Advanced. I need to default to a generic at gmail.com email address to log in to Gemini Advanced, which is a bummer. Do you think Google would be able to figure that out very quickly and easily? But I'm sure they will. A lot of these cons I think are going to go away very quickly, except for this $20 a month. Again, I'm paying for so many of these tools. I imagine a lot of you out there are doing the same thing, and it's hard to know where the ROI is going to come from. A lot of tools are frankly garbage, but just from this quick test drive in the last couple days, I am definitely planning on making some room in the budget for Gemini. It's just really been impressive, and I was very skeptical, as I said. Again, this is the cons slide, so we'll stick to the cons before we go to the pros. A big con for me, no custom GPTs. Hopefully that'll be coming soon. I've become very, very reliant, I guess, on my custom GPTs and my abilities to create those. They save a ton of time if you know how to build them correctly. I've got a bunch of videos about that. The other thing is those little errors. It's not mentioned on this slide, but those errors about elections. For some reason, a few of the prompts that I was asking it about, which were just general marketing prompts, returned results that said elections are tricky business and don't ask me about elections. So they're obviously very vigilant about the election, which I guess is a good thing. You can get around that pretty easily, but I think these are some of the issues that I'm hoping that Gemini irons out. I think the biggest one here is those GPTs. If we can get something similar like that in Gemini, I could see that becoming my go-to pretty quickly. The pros, one thing that I didn't really mention is the way that it delivers the information just was much more pleasing to the eye. This is something that if you use ChatGPT a lot, when it starts typing that stuff out in front of you, I need to just look away because that really messes with my eyes. A lot of times I'll need to go to another tab, do something something else as it generates its results. It's just, there's something jarring to it. If you're used to using it once or twice a little bit throughout the day, it's not going to matter. But I'm looking at these things many hours of the day, and oftentimes I just need to wait for it to respond before I can look at the response. Gemini has a much more pleasing where the words just appear and they don't have that quite that jarring effect of like watching somebody typing. It's also faster. So these responses, you know, as I was doing this head to head, I was consistently waiting for GPT-4, which didn't really always seem that slow to me, but Gemini is, I would say, ballpark almost twice as fast. Maybe not quite twice as fast, but considerably faster. It also has this export to Google Docs function, which is really awesome. Let me see if I can demo this for you real quickly. So there's this little share export to Google Docs. It's creating a Google Doc here. Now we can just open that in Google Docs. This has that whole last response just right here in the Google Doc. Doesn't seem like a big deal, but believe me, I have spent a lot of my life copying and pasting and reformatting from GPT-4 into Google Docs, which is a much more shareable, acceptable format. I've even tried to do some fancy stuff where I connect to the Google Doc API from ChatGPT, and that hasn't really worked very easily. So this little ability to just export it directly to Google Docs, where it's much easier to edit and share, I think is huge. And finally, the better results. I think we saw time and time again that Gemini's results were better. Some of them slightly, some of them considerably, but it's enough for me to really start changing my workflows. Like I mentioned, I'm very comfortable with ChatGPT and I have that in my workflows all over the place, but this is enough to sort of rethink that and begin using Gemini more frequently. Even while creating this video, I found myself using Gemini for a lot of the behind the scenes stuff that I have like very strong routines with for ChatGPT-4. So I am probably more shocked than most people at how good this performs. I was not looking forward to this. I just thought I had to do it, but I'm really glad I took this dive into Gemini. You should definitely consider it. I know it's confusing as these different tools roll out. You've just got, the hang of one and now there's a better one, but I think that's the reality of the world we live in. I'd love to know what you think. Drop me a comment. Let me know if you're considering switching or if you just think ChatGPT is good enough and you've got that into your workflows. How are you approaching this problem? Because frankly, I'm not really sure how to approach this. I have so many custom GPTs that I know well and that I love. I'm going to put a link to one of these in the description for my Patreon supporters. It is this complete PPC campaign. All of these prompts I have loaded into one single custom GPT that I'll put available to my Patreon supporters. It'll just go through all of these prompts and help you create everything from the ICPs, campaign ideas, all the way through the landing pages and the video scripts. So check that out. But more than anything, I'd love to know your thoughts. How are you going to be evaluating these tools going forward? It doesn't seem to make sense to every 3 months be jumping from one to the other, but there's going to be some advantages to doing that. This is, I guess, one of the other big hurdles when it comes to adopting AI in your organization. So anyway, thanks a ton for watching. I know this video is a little longer than most, but I think it is very impactful. And again, I appreciate you joining me on my mission of helping marketers and entrepreneurs to learn and get efficiencies from these different AI tools. If you're getting something out of these videos, consider supporting me on Patreon. I've got a bunch of custom GPTs in there. I've got a bunch of prompt sequences. I've got a bunch of coaching options. So check that out, and please give me a like, give me a subscribe, and I will see you on the next video.
Make your dreams come true.